Shedeur Sanders' presence on the sideline was telling. Not passive but composed, focused, almost unnervingly calm. In a position often dominated by emotion and ego, Sanders embodies a different kind of leadership. His ability to find peace in pressure and clarity in chaos is rare, especially for someone so young. Yet even with those traits, he wasn't trusted with first-team reps. His response? Not outrage but insight, highlighting how mental readiness and spiritual grounding often get misjudged in a league addicted to physical metrics. Segment. SS and Kevin Stefanski. Coach Stefanski's reluctance to adapt to that reality may have cost the Browns more than they.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Shedeur Sanders is more than prepared. He's a signal that the NFL's quarterback development model is outdated. His story isn't about a player being held back. It's about what happens when leadership, maturity, and inner strength are ignored by a system still chasing the wrong qualities. And if Cleveland doesn't adjust, someone else will, because Sanders isn't waiting for permission to. Shedeur Sanders has had enough. After months of sitting back, trusting the process, showing up with relentless preparation and quiet confidence, he finally said what needed to be said. And the message was simple: stop wasting time. Stop holding him back under the false pretense of development. Stop pretending like he's not ready when everything about how he carries himself, everything he puts into the game, and everything he delivers in limited opportunities proves otherwise. And what makes it sting even more? He's right. This isn't the rant of a bitter backup trying to stir the pot. This is the voice of someone who's done the work, earned the shot, and still been left watching from the sidelines while less prepared quarterbacks get the benefit of the doubt. And instead of boiling over, Shedeur said it with the same composure that's defined his entire journey: measured, confident, and calm. That calm, by the way? That's what sets him apart. We've seen quarterbacks buckle under pressure. We've seen rookies lose control, chase the spotlight, demand starts before they're ready. That's not Shedeur. His confidence doesn't come from entitlement. It comes from faith. From reps, both physical and mental. From studying, preparing, visualizing games before they even happen. And most importantly, from being built for chaos. The problem is the Browns haven't caught up to that. They've watched him perform in small windows, handle pressure like a seasoned pro, stay steady in a locker room full of uncertainty, and they've still held back. Not because he isn't ready, but because they aren't. Because the coaching staff, led by Kevin Stefanski, made their mind up early and haven't adjusted since. So here we are. A fifth-round pick, who by all accounts should be buried in the depth chart, is suddenly making headlines not because he's complaining, but because he's calmly telling the truth. And that truth? It cuts deeper than any sideline blow-up ever could. The Browns had a chance to develop a future leader. And they stalled. They looked at draft status, not character. They prioritized scheme fit over mental toughness. They saw humility and mistook it for hesitation. They underestimated someone who doesn't need the spotlight to lead. That's not a quarterback problem. That's a coaching problem. Because the qualities Shedeur brings to the table, the internal drive, the mental sharpness, the spiritual discipline, aren't just rare in young quarterbacks. They're exactly what this league claims to value. And yet, somehow, those very traits got him boxed into a developmental role with no clear path forward. What exactly are they waiting for? He said it himself: he doesn't need more reps to be ready. He needs them so they can finally see what he already knows. That he belongs on the field. That he's ready to lead. That the difference between him and the starters isn't talent, it's trust. Or more accurately, a lack of it. And that lack of trust? Is systemic. This isn't just about Stefanski's decision-making. This is about how the NFL continues to scout and evaluate talent. How teams still prioritize traits over truth. How humility, character, and mental strength somehow get dismissed in favor of flashy upside and arm strength. Sanders isn't the first quarterback to be overlooked. But he might be the most prepared to call it out without losing himself in the process. His faith, his calmness, it's not an act. It's not media training. It's who he is. It's how he survived every obstacle that's been thrown at him, from being undervalued at the draft to being pushed aside in a quarterback room that doesn't know how to use him. And through it all, he stayed centered. The kind of emotional intelligence Shedeur shows isn't just useful, it's elite. While some rookies need chaos to grow, he thrives despite it. While others are figuring out how to stay composed, he's been leading through stillness. That's the kind of leadership that doesn't just win games, it defines locker rooms. It shapes culture. It builds dynasties. And yet the Browns have treated him like an afterthought. If they were losing and desperate, maybe they'd be forced to try something different. But what makes this situation worse is that even in the moments where Shedeur could have stepped in and contributed, they've kept him at arm's length. It's the kind of decision-making that doesn't just slow a team down, it fractures it from the inside because everyone sees it. You don't need to be a scout to recognize when a quarterback has that presence, that control, that sense of rhythm and calm that makes everyone else play better. And Shedeur's teammates? They see it. You can't fake that kind of leadership. You can't hide it either. Which is why his remarks hit so hard. He didn't hold back. He didn't sugarcoat it. But he didn't make it personal either. He made it clear, the process is flawed. The system is broken. And the refusal to evolve isn't hurting him, it's hurting the team. That's the most powerful part of his message. He's not begging for a promotion. He's not trying to shame anyone. He's holding up a mirror. And the reflection? A franchise stuck in its ways. A coaching staff too cautious to admit they've overlooked the one player who could bring clarity to the chaos. A development system that punishes players who are emotionally mature, spiritually grounded, and mentally prepared, because they don't fit the mold. Shedeur isn't saying, "Give me the job." He's saying, "Stop pretending I haven't earned it." And at this point, there's no argument against him. He's done the work. He's shown the patience. He's carried himself like a leader when others in the room weren't. And he's not flinching even now. Even with the cameras rolling. Even with fans asking the same questions he is. Why hasn't he gotten the reps? Why has a player this prepared, this mature, this centered, been forced to stand still while the team drifts? The Browns won't have an answer. Not one that holds up. Because the more Shedeur speaks, the more obvious it becomes that this isn't about readiness. It's about reluctance. About an organization refusing to pivot, even when the best option is sitting right in front of them. And if they're not careful, they won't just lose a quarterback. They'll lose a leader. Because players like Shedeur don't sit around forever. He's not going to play this political waiting game for years. He's not going to let his preparation go unnoticed. And eventually, if the Browns won't step up, someone else will. And when that happens, when he finally gets handed the ball, the team, and the trust, no one's going to look back and say he came out of nowhere. They're going to say Cleveland missed it. So now the pressure is on. Not on Shedeur. On the coaching staff. On the front office. On the outdated system that still thinks leadership is something you can measure in combined drills. It's time to evolve. Or get left behind. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think the Browns are ignoring the obvious? Should Shedeur already be leading this team? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if you believe maturity and mental toughness matter more than hype. Share this with someone who's tired of watching talented players get overlooked. And don't forget to subscribe, because if Shedeur Sanders keeps pushing forward, this story is only going to get louder. The truth's out now and the Browns can't walk it back. Shedeur Sanders, the rookie quarterback who walked into Cleveland's locker room without fanfare but with the quiet poise of a seasoned vet, finally said what everyone else was thinking. The coaching staff's hesitation isn't about readiness, it's about refusal. A refusal to acknowledge that the fifth-round pick they buried on the depth chart might be more prepared, more composed, and more capable than the guys they bet on early. And when Shedeur finally broke that silence, it wasn't fireworks. It was a pressure valve being released. He didn't lash out. He didn't attack. He just said it. Plain. Direct. With the same kind of measured conviction he's shown from the day he was drafted. His message was simple. I've been ready. It's not about reps anymore. It's about trust. And trust? That's been missing from the top down. That calmness? That composure? That's what makes this whole situation so frustrating. Sanders is everything NFL teams say they want in a quarterback. Composed under pressure, mentally resilient, spiritually grounded, and driven by preparation rather than performance anxiety. And yet, here he is, still fighting for first-team reps like he hasn't already earned them with everything he's shown off the field, and the few chances he's gotten on it. Let's stop pretending this is normal. The Browns are dealing with quarterback inconsistency, depth chart uncertainty, and a locker room that, let's be real, could use a stabilizing force. And right there, in front of them, is a player who thrives in uncertainty. A player who's already proven he doesn't need perfect conditions to perform. A player who isn't defined by the noise around him. And still he sits. Not because he hasn't done enough, but because the people in charge are too scared to admit that the answer didn't come wrapped in first-round expectations. That's the part that hits hardest. We're not watching a kid crumble under pressure. We're watching a grown man navigate a broken process with more grace than anyone else in the room. And when that man says he's tired of being overlooked, Not bitter, not angry, but done with the delay. You pay attention. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't talking like someone demanding a job. He's talking like someone who knows he's already doing it. From his strategic visualization habits to his faith-first mindset, from his unshakable poise in interviews to his calculated preparation week after week. This is not how rookies are supposed to behave. And that's exactly the problem. He's not following the script. And when players don't follow the script, when they don't wait their turn quietly, when they don't act overwhelmed, when they don't carry a chip on their shoulder but instead radiate peace and purpose, the NFL doesn't know what to do with them. So it shelves. But Shedeur's not a player you shelf. He's not someone you groom while letting others burn through opportunities they haven't earned. He's not a long-term project. He's not waiting for the right moment. The right moment was months ago. Every day after is a delay. Every missed rep is a waste. The Browns coaching staff? They're not doing development. They're doing damage control. They're trying to avoid the embarrassment of admitting they overlooked a star in the making, just because he didn't come from the right part of the draft board. Let's not gloss over that either. The fact that Shedeur went in the 5th round is not a reflection of his readiness. It's a reflection of the league's persistent obsession with aesthetics over substance. Because what exactly did Shedeur not have? Production? Check. Maturity? Check. Decision-making? Elite. Intangibles? Off the charts. Faith and discipline? Constant. But none of that gets measured at the combine. None of that makes for a viral highlight clip. So when draft day came, he got overlooked. Again. And now, even when his performance, poise, and leadership prove what the scouts missed, the system still won't pivot. Because doing so would mean admitting that character, resilience, and inner peace matter more than flashy stats and raw tools. The NFL loves a developmental story, right up until the player they've been holding back starts developing without them. And that's exactly what Shedeur's doing. Without first-team support. Without consistent reps. Without the public backing of his coaches. He's still preparing. Still showing up early. Still staying late. Still speaking with conviction. Still keeping his head when others are losing theirs. And now, he's speaking up. Not because he wants to blow things up, but because he knows silence isn't helping anyone anymore. Not himself and not a franchise that keeps stumbling into its own mistakes. Because the Browns aren't just hurting Shedeur's trajectory. They're hurting their own. They've needed leadership. Stability. Someone who doesn't panic under pressure or overcomplicate the moment. And the person who offers all of that has been standing in the building, waiting for the opportunity to prove it on a consistent basis. But instead of giving him that chance, they've clung to excuses. He needs more reps. He's still learning. We're going to stick with the plan. What plan? The one that stalled offensive rhythm? The one that's kept rotating quarterbacks like a bad reality show audition? The one that's overlooked a player who, at every turn, has demonstrated more poise and professionalism than half the locker room? At some point, it stops being about protecting a process. It starts being about avoiding accountability. And that's where Shedeur's calm burns the brightest. Because he's not raging. He's not demanding. He's just holding up a mirror, and the reflection isn't flattering. Not for Stefanski. Not for the front office. Not for the league that still pretends mental strength isn't a measurable asset. Shedeur is the future of quarterback development. Not the kind who needs a tailor-made system to thrive, but the kind who can elevate whatever system he's handed. He's not waiting for perfect conditions. He's built to create them. And what happens when a player like that finally gets his shot? You already know. The excuses die. The narratives flip. The coaching decisions get exposed. And the ones who held him back? They have to explain why they ignored what was obvious from day one. Because this isn't a redemption story. This is a revelation. The system's been broken. The scouting process has been flawed. The coaching has been too cautious. But Shedeur? He's been consistent through it all. Unshaken. Prepared. Patient, yes, but not passive. And now the clock's ticking. The Browns either wake up, or someone else, because players like this don't go unnoticed forever. And when Shedeur Sanders finally steps into the starting role, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere that knows how to recognize leadership, you can bet the same people who doubted him will be rewriting their opinions in real time. And we'll remember that this wasn't some overnight success story. This was a player who should have been leading all along. Who was held back, delayed, overlooked, and still kept showing up with grace, focus, and faith. That's what separates him. That's what makes this more than just another quarterback controversy. This is a challenge to the league itself, to stop mistaking flash for substance. To stop drafting highlight reels instead of leaders. To stop treating calm confidence like it's a red flag. So let's talk. And now the clock's louder than ever. 2. Not for Shedeur Sanders, he's been ready. He stayed ready. This ticking clock isn't hanging over his head. It's over Cleveland. Over Kevin Stefanski. Over every decision-maker who kept pretending development was about patience instead of recognition. Because let's call it what it is, Shedeur didn't need time. He needed trust. The problem? The coaching staff couldn't, or wouldn't, give it. They stuck with the plan. A plan that delayed progress. A plan that sidelined leadership. A plan that failed to see what was staring them in the face. And the worst part? It's not just about missed snaps. It's about missed moments, the kind that shape careers and define seasons. Shedeur gave them every reason to believe. He didn't come into the league raw or cocky or overwhelmed. He came in like a grown man with his own blueprint. He brought mental structure, emotional balance, and a kind of spiritual steadiness that you don't find in most 21-year-olds, let alone rookie quarterbacks thrust into NFL chaos. He's not asking for hype. He's not looking for sympathy. What he wants is something way more dangerous in a system like this: accountability. Because when you have a quarterback who prepares the way he does, who visualizes every snap like it's already happened, who lives in the playbook and walks onto the field with intention instead of nerves, and you still keep him buried on the depth chart, you're no longer evaluating talent. You're protecting. And this isn't just Stefanski's blind spot. This is a league-wide flaw. The NFL draft machine is addicted to prototypes. It glorifies measurables. It treats humility like a weakness and treats quiet confidence like it's not marketable enough to invest in. So when someone like Shedeur comes along with no off-field drama, no flashy self-promotion, just pure leadership and calm command, they don't know what to do. So they wait. They talk about developmental upside. They say he's not quite ready. They invent a timeline that's built more on narrative than reality. And in that delay they waste reps, waste growth, waste wins. Shedeur's story is becoming more than just a case of being overlooked. It's turning into a clear indictment of a system that hasn't updated its scouting priorities in decades. The Browns didn't just fail to develop Shedeur. They failed to believe in him. And that's different. Development happens when you see potential and nurture it. Belief? That's when you know someone is ready and you give them the platform to prove it. They never gave him that platform. But Shedeur built one with every interview. Every controlled, calm answer. Every day he stayed focused despite being pushed aside. He's been building credibility, building presence, building leadership in a room that didn't ask for it, but desperately needed it. The wildest part? Even with everything he's done, it wasn't until he said something, until he called out the lack of first-team reps, that people finally paid attention. Because when Shedeur speaks, it doesn't sound like someone pleading. It sounds like someone warning. He's not hoping for an opportunity. He's acknowledging that the opportunity should have already come. And when someone like that finally says, "I've had enough," not with emotion but with surgical precision, the room gets real quiet. Because now it's not just a coaching decision, it's a public one. Now Stefanski and the staff aren't just answering to Shedeur. They're answering to everyone watching. And there's no way to spin this anymore. Not when the guy with the cleanest track record, strongest character, and most obvious mental control is the same guy they won't give a real shot to. And fans see it. The media sees it. Other players see it. The Browns can't hide behind developing talent when the most developed person in the room is the one they've relegated to clipboard duty. You know who sees it most? Every other team in the league. They're watching this play out, taking notes. Because quarterbacks like Shedeur aren't common. And when Cleveland's hesitation turns into a full-blown misfire, they'll be ready to swoop in. That's not speculation. That's the league. You think other franchises with shaky quarterback rooms wouldn't kill for a calm, controlled, self-aware young leader who's already putting in the mental reps that some starters never master? Of course they would. Because Shedeur isn't just an athlete. He's a mind on the field. He plays with vision, with intention, with balance. That doesn't get coached, it gets cultivated. And Cleveland? They've been pulling weeds instead of watering the roots. And let's not get it twisted, this isn't about being perfect. Shedeur's not claiming to be flawless. He knows there's room to grow. But growth and readiness are not opposites. You can be a work in progress and still be the best option in the room. The problem is the Browns didn't even bother to test that theory. They made up their minds early and stuck to it, blindly. That's the kind of thinking that keeps franchises stuck in neutral. And now their decision is catching up to them. Because Shedeur's not going away quietly. His performance won't let him. His mindset won't let him. His faith won't let him. Every time he shows up, every time he speaks, Every time he doesn't spiral under pressure, he proves he was the right choice all along. The real question now: how long do the Browns keep fighting it? Because if they don't pivot, and fast, this story becomes about more than a mismanaged rookie. It becomes about a culture problem, an organizational failure. And once that narrative sets in, good luck shaking it off. You can bench a player. You can ignore their reps. But you can't silence, and that's what Shedeur has. Real, undeniable leadership. The kind that doesn't need permission to shine. The kind that doesn't break when overlooked. The kind that only gets stronger the longer it's tested. He's not just ready to play. He's ready to change something. So where does that leave Cleveland? At a crossroads. One direction leads to the same tired excuses. The other leads to growth, to realignment, to accountability. And it starts with finally putting the guy under center who's already leading from the back of the... Let him take command. Let him guide this team through the storm. Let him be what he already is, prepared, poised, and more than capable of leading grown men on Sundays. Because if they don't, they'll lose more than games. They'll lose credibility. And worse, they'll lose Shedeur. Let's be real. There's a time limit on this kind of patience. He's not going to sit forever. He shouldn't have to. The system already delayed him once during the draft. Don't make the mistake of delaying him again now that he's in the building, proving every day that he's built different. And when that moment finally comes, when Shedeur gets the nod, when the reins get handed over, it won't feel like a gamble. It'll feel like relief. Because the truth is, he's been carrying the traits of a starter since the day he arrived. The Browns just haven't recognized it yet. But they... Let us know what you think. Has Shedeur Sanders proven he's the best quarterback on the Browns roster? Is Cleveland sabotaging their own success by clinging to outdated evaluations? Drop a comment, hit that like button if you're with the players who stay ready through chaos. Share this with someone who's been following the journey, and make sure you're subscribed, because this story is still unfolding and the next chapter is going to be the one where everything changes.